The Ferrari Mondial is a 2+2 coupe automobile produced by Ferrari from 1980 through 1993. It replaced the angular 208/308 GT4. The Mondial name came from Ferrari's History Euro, the famed 500 Mondial race car of the early 1950s. Despite its predecessor being Bertone-styled, the Mondial saw Ferrari return to Pininfarina for styling. It was sold as a mid-sized coupe and, eventually, a cabriolet. The Mondial was conceived as a usable model, offering the practicality of 4 seats and the performance of a Ferrari. The car had a slightly higher roofline than its stablemates, with a single long door either side, offering easy access and good interior space, reasonable rear legroom, while all-round visibility was excellent. History: the Mondial was produced in fairly high numbers for a Ferrari, with more than 6,100 produced in its 13-year run, and was one of Ferrari's most commercially successful models. The car body was not built as a monocoque in the same way as a conventional car. The steel outer body was produced by the famous Italian coach builder Carrozzeria Scaglietti, just down the road in nearby Modena, built over a lightweight steel box section space frame. The engine cover and rear luggage compartment lids are in light alloy. The seats and interior were trimmed in Connolly hide, contrasting with the body color. Most cars were painted Riso red, but some were black or silver, and a few were dark blue. The Mondial was the first Ferrari car where the entire engine area suspension assembly was mounted on a detachable steel subframe, making engine removal for a major rebuild or cylinder head removal much easier than it was on previous models. Unusually, the handbrake is situated between the driver's seat and the inner sill. Once the handbrake is set, it drops down so as not to impede egress and ingress. Instead of the conventional H-shift pattern, the gearbox has first gear situated in a dogleg to the left and back, behind reverse. This pattern allows quicker gear shifts between second and third gear, and also between fourth and fifth. Though intended to be an entry-level performance vehicle within the Ferrari lineup, the Mondial unfortunately was a disappointment to Ferrari enthusiasts. The car was plagued with major mechanical and reliability issues, and originally powered by a rather weak 214 horsepower engine, it wasn't exactly a true Ferrari in the eyes of the public. Time magazine went on to include it as one of the 50 worst cars of all time, as well as being nominated for the Top Gear search of the worst car in the world. Mondial 8. The Mondial was introduced as the Mondial 8 at the 1980 Geneva Auto Salon. It was the first Ferrari to depart from the company's familiar 3-digit naming scheme and was fairly mild, relative to other Ferraris, in terms of performance, drawing criticism from the motoring press. It used a mid-rear mounted Bosch K-Jetronic fuel injection V8, shared with a 308 GTBI GTSI, mounted transversely. The engine was originally used in the 1973 Dino 308 GT4. The K-Jetronic system is mechanical, with a high-pressure pump which streams fuel continuously to the injectors. It does not have a computer, just a few relays to handle the cold start sequence etc. The chassis was also based on the 308 GT4, but with a 100 mm longer wheelbase at 2,650 ohm. The suspension was the classic layout of unequal-length double wishbones and Coney dampers all around. The Mondial 8 is considered one of the marque's most practical vehicles, due to its 214 HP, proven drivetrain, 4 seats, and relatively low cost of maintenance. 703 examples were made. Mondial Quattrovalvole, the first Mondial engine, although a DOHC design, used just 2 valves per cylinder. The 1982 Quattrovalvole or QV introduced a new 4-valve head. The combustion chamber design was purportedly based on the early 80s Formula One engine. Again, the engine was shared with the contemporary 308 GTB GTS QV, and produced a much more respectable 240 HP. Appearance was largely as per the Mondial 8, although with red engine heads and prominent Quattrovalvole script at the rear. 1,145 Cooper Copyright S were built between 1982 and 1985. Mondial Cabriolet, a new cabriolet body style was added for 1983. Body styling remained the same as the coupe copyright variant, with the roof maintaining the buttress design of the roof, though the cabriolet required the rear seats to be mounted closer together laterally. The introduction of the cabriolet saw the popularity of the Mondial rise, particularly in the American market, where the convertible body style was highly desirable. The cabriolet has the added distinction of being the only four-seat, mid-rear engine, convertible automobile ever manufactured in regular production. 629 units were produced between 1983 and 1985. 3.2 Mondial, like the new Ferrari 328, the Mondial's engine grew in both bore and stroke to 3.2 L in 1985. Output was now 270 PS. The Mondial 3.2 was first presented at the 1985 Frankfurt Auto Show in September that year. Available in both coupe copyright and cabriolet forms, styling was refreshed with restyled and body-colored bumpers, similar to the 328 with more integrated indicators and driving lamps, and new alloy wheels with a more rounded face. The 3.2 also boasted a major interior update, with a more ergonomic layout and a more rounded instrument binnacle. Later cars, from 1987 onwards, also sported ABS brakes. Fuel injection remained the primarily mechanical Bosch K-Jetronic with an O2 sensor and the exhaust providing feedback to a simple computer for mixture trimming via a pulse-modulated frequency valve that regulated control of fuel pressure. Ignition system was Marelli Microplex, with electronic advance control and one distributor per bank of the V8. The 1988 Mondial 3.2 would be the final model year that retained the relatively low maintenance costs of the 308/328 drivetrain, allowing major service items like timing belt and clutch replacement to be performed with the engine transmission package still in the car. From 1985 to 1989 Ferrari produced 987 coupe copyright S and 810 cabriolets. Mondial T. The final Mondial evolution was 1989's Mondial T. It was a substantially changed model, spearhead of a new generation of V8 Ferraris, according to Road and Track magazine. It was visually different from preceding Mondial models, the most recognizable being the redesign of the air intakes to a smaller, neater rectangular shape. Additionally, the door handles were of a visually different design and the bumpers became body-colored. The T called attention to the car's new engine transmission layout. The previously transverse engine was now mounted longitudinally whilst the gearbox remained transverse, thus forming a T. By adopting this layout, a longer engine could be mounted lower in the chassis, improving handling dramatically. The T configuration was used by Ferrari's Formula One cars of the 1980s, and would be the standard for the marque's future mid-engined V8 cars, beginning with the 348, introduced later in the year. The transverse manual gearbox was fitted with a limited slip differential with a twin-plate clutch design with bevel gears driving the wheels. Later in production, a semi-automatic transmission termed Vallejo was available as an option. While shifting was by means of a traditional gear lever, the clutch was actuated automatically without a clutch pedal. The engine was up to 3.4 L and 300 HP. The engine was now controlled by Bosch Motronic DME 2.5 electronic engine management that integrated EFI and ignition control into a single computer unit. Two of these were used in the car, one for each bank of the engine. Engine lubrication was upgraded to a dry sump system. The Mondial's chassis would underpin a new generation of two-seat Ferraris, right up to the 360. But the 2+2 Mondial would end production just 4.5 years later in 1993. However, the T layout of the engine and transaxle, adapted from Ferrari's Formula One cars, continues to be used in mid-engined V8 model Ferraris to date, albeit with a more sophisticated chassis. The new layout saw the engine and transmission mounted on a removable subframe. The assembly could be removed through the underside of the vehicle for maintenance. This is necessary for timing belt replacement, making this a costly procedure for the owner who does not have a lift. On the other hand, the clutch was now located at the very rear of the drivetrain. This makes clutch replacement and service a simple, inexpensive, and readily owner-doable proposition. The T was home to other Ferrari firsts. It used power-assisted steering for the first time, and had a three-position electronically controlled suspension for a variable trade-off between ride quality and road holding. It also had standard ABS. The Mondial T represented the most substantial upgrade to the Mondial model line in performance and handling since its introduction in 1980. Previous Mondials had rarely justified their price premium over the competition in terms of bare performance statistics, which led to some poor press coverage. The T offered greater performance whilst retaining a mid-engine layout and a practical packaging layout, and was more favorably received. It also had the advantage of two usable rear seats. The company has not produced a mid-engine 2+2 car since then, leaving the 2+2 configuration to the more classic front-engine design starting with the 456 in 1992. As of 2012, the V12FF along with the V8 California are the company's only four-seat vehicle offerings, but both of these are front-engined, leaving the Mondial T as the most modern four-seat, mid-engined, Ferrari yet produced. Between 1989 and 1993 Ferrari produced 858 Coupe Copyright S and 1017 cabriolets. PPG Pace Car. The Mondial-based Ferrari PPG Pace Car was built exclusively for PPG Industries to use as a safety car for the PPG IndyCar World Series as part of its Pace Car program. Built by Ferrari under the design of IDEA Institute at a cost of approximately $1 million, it was introduced at the 1989 Champion Spark Plugs 300 in Laguna Seca. In 2004, one of its examples was offered at a Christie's auction held during the 2004 24 Hours of Le Mans, where it was sold for $70,500. References: Buckley, Martin and Rees, Chris. World Encyclopedia of Cars. London, Arness Publishing. ISBN A1-84038-083-7A.